Hey guys, it's Katie. Thanks for stopping by my channel. Today we're going to talk about seeds. I got a lot of seeds in the mail recently. Lots of seeds. Lots of seeds. Even more seeds. Some are still coming in the mail. I bought a lot of seeds this year. And I will do a seed haul and show you everything that I got. I also have all my seeds from last year and previous years and self-saved seeds. So we'll do a seed haul separately, but today's video I just wanted to talk about seeds, kind of generally. In my garden I try to start seeds. I start my plants from seed almost always, and I try to direct sow almost always. So that's kind of where I'm coming from in this, but I just want to kind of encourage you to consider seeds. If this is your first garden, a lot of people are scared off. A lot of people will say just get transplants, it's easier. I don't think it's any easier, and I feel like the pros and cons, if you look at seeds versus transplants or like getting an already grown plant to put in your garden, I feel like seeds have so many more benefits than transplants, and you're giving up a lot if you get a transplant. So you get kind of the benefit of it's already on its way, but I think you're giving up a lot. So we're going to talk about kind of the pros and cons of starting from seed. I want to talk to you about where to get seeds, what to look for in seeds, how to read a seed packet, those kind of like general how to get seeds, procure seeds sort of topics, and in the last section I'll talk to you about starting seeds. So I made a little outline. Let me just pull it up here so I can keep myself on track. Alright, so if you're thinking about growing a garden, starting from seed or starting from transplant, like I said, if you're starting from transplant, you're giving up a lot. So that's what I consider like the pros of starting from seed. So that's what I'm going to talk about. The biggest thing about starting from seeds is they're so much cheaper than getting a transplant. And if you get a pack of seeds, like any normal little envelope of seeds this size, they're usually $1, $2, $3, maybe $4 or $5 if they're like exceptionally rare or something. But $2 or $3 you can get a pack of seeds. You can even get seeds for a lot cheaper too. We'll talk about that in how and where to get seeds. But if you get a pack of seeds for $2 or $3, or if you go to the store and try to buy a transplant, a lot of times you won't even be able to get one plant for $2. A lot of times they're more like $3 or $4. Or they'll come like in a pack of 6, so you're kind of in those constraints of the package size. So you might have to be paying more for less plants than if you get seeds. So if you get seeds, not only do you have more to start with, so in here there's enough seeds to make several plants. Usually there's like 10, 15, 20, maybe even up to 50 or 100 seeds, depending on what kind of seed it is, how the plant grows. So you can plant them this year. If something happens to your plant, you can replant them with the remaining seeds, and if you take care of them, you can continue to plant them in the next few years to come. So getting a packet of seeds, not only it saves you like this year, but it will save you next year. If you are able to save seeds, then you're saving every year, and you have no additional cost to continue to grow those plants. So saving seeds, starting from seeds, definitely cheaper. Seeds are also a lot easier to kind of store. Like you keep your packet of seeds, as long as you store it well. Some people keep them in the freezer, some people just keep them in a dry, cool, dark place. They last for a long time, and so you have them on hand, and you're not at the whim of the store or the nursery that's growing the seedlings for you. You're also giving up variety if you start with transplants. If you go to a nursery or a garden center, you might only have a few different options when it comes to a certain plant. So if there's tomatoes, there might be 3 or 4 kinds of tomatoes, 3 or 4 kinds of peppers, and then certain plants you won't find at all. And that's because a lot of plants don't transplant well, and they don't travel well, and all of these things that it's just not in the best interest of the nursery or the garden center or whatever to provide those transplants. So you don't want to be held by those constraints. Those are logistics that have nothing to do with you and your garden. So don't let those dictate what you can and can't grow. So starting from seed gives you many more different kinds of vegetables and many more varieties within the vegetables, or fruits or whatever, that flowers, whatever you're growing. So you're definitely giving up variety if you plant only transplants. Another thing is if you start from seed, and I like to start direct sowing, which means planting the seed where its final destination is going to be, rather than starting a plant and then moving the plant out to its final destination. I feel like those seeds, you know, barring the fact that the conditions are right outside for that seed to start growing, I generally feel like they grow stronger, and they're waiting for the right time, and they know what to do, and Mother Nature knows what to do. And I talked about this in another video, but I don't grow my garden, I just steward my garden. The garden grows itself. So the more and the sooner I can hand that control over to Mother Nature, to the natural world, whatever you want to think of it, the better. Those plants outside always do better. They don't have to deal with transplant shock. They don't have to deal with hardening off, anything like that. And a lot of times you can put seeds in the ground and they don't come up until it's the right time. So if you can put seeds outside as soon as your soil works, but they don't germinate until the soil's a certain temperature based on whatever plant it is. So you can plant, if you plant a seed early, it's not going to come up until the time is right. And most likely it will just sit there in the ground happily waiting until the time is right, and then the plant will grow when the time is right. If you plant a transplant outside and it's too early and you get a cold snap, your plant's probably going to die. So I feel like starting from seed, your plants are stronger, and they're just growing stronger because they're in the conditions that they're going to be in for the rest of the time they're in the garden. If you're getting transplants, whether you start the transplants yourself by starting seeds indoors or whether you buy transplants, just moving them out to the garden is a big shock to them, and it's going to take a while to adjust. And depending on how big, how sturdy, how delicate the seedlings are that you transplant out, sometimes they don't make it at all. And sometimes they perk right up after a few days and they take off and they're perfectly fine, which is what my hope would be for anybody who's growing from transplants. But it's not a guarantee. So if you're thinking that you want to start from transplants because they're on their way, they're going to do well, they're already started, that's not necessarily true, because just because they're started in the conditions at the nursery doesn't mean they're going to transplant well. And it's I feel like if you're new and you think that it's easier to start from plants, I would question that, because if you are a new gardener, perhaps you don't know the best way to harden off plants, how to acclimate them to outside from an inside growing environment. All these little nuances that you might not know. I feel like you're kind of setting yourself up for more success if you start where they're going to be, just kind of start from scratch and just let Mother Nature take it from there with the conditions that you have outside. There's a lot of tips and tricks to getting transplants in your garden, and if you don't know them, then your plants might suffer even more than they would suffer. Even doing everything perfectly right, there's always going to be transplant shock. There's always going to be some level of the plant being like, what is going on? This is not my warm greenhouse anymore, sort of situation. So yeah, you're definitely giving up that in terms of the plant being acclimated already. Having seeds on hand is also, I think, so valuable because you have them, they're in your possession. You don't have to wait for them to become available, and you don't have to miss out if for some reason they're sold out or if something happens. If you go to the nursery and they don't have what you want, then you're out of luck unless you start your own. Once you have the seeds in your possession, this year's seeds were a little harder to come by. I did have to do a little bit more digging. I did end up getting everything that I wanted for the most part, and now they're in my possession. They belong to me, and as long as I take care of them, I can grow these anytime I want. If you wanted to grow indoors over the winter, and you had seeds in your possession, then it would be a lot easier to do that. You can't count on those plants being available if you wanted to grow off-season, or if you wanted to grow in a different climate. If you were like moving, you might still have the seeds. You could bring them with you where it would be harder. So they're easier to store. They're easier to just have on hand. Another thing about bringing transplants home from nurseries or big box stores, whatever you have, I can't even guess the percentage of those plants that come to your home with pests, but I would imagine that it's pretty significant. Whether it's insects or insect larvae in the soil, whether it's something already on the leaves, like eggs from some insect, or caterpillar larvae eggs on a plant, something like that. I would say there's a significant risk to bringing something into your garden. And you have, I can't imagine that you could get a pest from a seed. I mean, maybe it's possible, but yeah, I think that the risk of bringing a pest into your garden is significantly less if you start from seed. And then the last thing is, knowing how the plant starts from the beginning is helpful if you ever get to the point where you're saving your own seeds and replanting them. Because if you started from a plant and you were able to save seeds, then you have to start those from seed anyway. So it's not like you can take the seeds and give them back to the nursery and have them, exchange them for plants. That would be kind of cool if they would do that. But if your eventual goal is to save even more money, get even more diversity, and get even plants even better suited for your environment, your best bet is to save seeds and then plant those. So you're going to need to start from seed eventually, if that's what you're trying to aim for anyway, as far as sustainability, money savings, diversity, all that. So I want to talk about the kinds of plants that I don't start from seed because, like I said, I try to plant as much as I can from seed, but there are exceptions. Generally, when you think of plants, you have annuals and you have perennials. So annuals are ones that you start from seed, they grow up through the life cycle of one growing season, and then generally they die because the weather turns cold or they just run out of resources, and they die. And that's the whole life cycle of the plant. It germinates, it grows, it becomes a plant, it bears fruit, whatever it's going to do, and then it dies. And that's usually all within one growing season. Perennial plants are ones that grow over the course of years and years and years. So if you're thinking of annual plants, those ones are the ones that I like to start from seed most often. Of annual plants, the one that I have struggled with in the past is peppers, hot peppers and sweet peppers. Generally, you have to have the conditions just right. They have a long growing season, so it is helpful if you can start them indoors, but you need to have the temperature just right, the lights just right, the intensity of the bulbs a lot of times needs to be adjusted, and for me that's a lot of work, and so I do buy pepper transplants. So that's one of the few annuals. I do buy annual transplants, especially as impulse buys. If I'm somewhere and I see tomato seedlings and they look good, I might buy them. But generally speaking, the only annual plant that I can think of that I regularly just count on transplants, and I don't usually even try starting from seed these days, is pepper plants. When you think about perennials, a lot of times I will buy those as plants. Perennials, because they come back year after year, they are generally slower growing. They generally need to get to a certain size before you can harvest off of them. So I'm thinking of things like blueberry bushes, apple trees, anything that grows from cutting or a root or a tuber or a rhizome or a corm or all the different things. So I have asparagus, I have horseradish, I have rhubarb, we have fig bushes, all these things, we have strawberries, all of these things we got as plants instead of from seed. Some things we have actually done both ways. I have asparagus from seed and asparagus from corms, I think they're called, crowns, whatever. Same thing with the rhubarb. I originally planted rhubarb from seed, but then I ended up getting rhubarb crowns, and so we have both. And I would say the ones from seed they took longer to germinate. They were a more difficult plant, so if I were to do it over again, I probably would have just gotten the crowns from the beginning. The reason why I did rhubarb from seed is because I couldn't find crowns locally to me, and I was able to find the seeds. So that's another thing as far as like a benefit to seeds is they're small, they ship well, they're a lot cheaper to ship, there's a lot less risk to shipping them if you want to order them online or trade with a friend or something like that. All right, so let's talk about where to get seeds, how to get seeds, what to look for in seeds, things like that. So you can buy seeds pretty much anywhere, especially this time of year. Part of the reason why I have so many seeds is because I just kind of impulse buy them, and if you've never shopped for seeds, you might not notice them because they're just kind of tucked in corners of just about every store. You can buy them at Target, you can buy them at grocery stores, you can buy them, of course, at nurseries and like big box stores, Home Depot, things like that. You can buy them online, which is where I got most of my seeds this year since I'm staying indoors or staying, at home. But you can get seeds all over the place. You can even get seeds at Dollar Tree, and they're decent seeds too. I mean, you won't get a huge variety, and you don't get a ton of seeds per packet, but they're 4 for $1. You get a pack of seeds for 25 cents, and they germinate perfectly fine, and they grow perfectly fine. So you can get seeds lots of different places. If you don't want to buy seeds, you could do a seed swap with somebody who had seeds. If you had some seeds and they had some seeds, you could swap. So if you grow a tomato plant or a cucumber plant, usually, 1 or 2 of those plants might be enough that all you would need. And then you have like the rest of the seeds in the packet. So swapping with a friend could be helpful. Sometimes organizations will do like organized swaps. So I've gone to a few seed swaps, plant cutting swaps in the past. So that's a really good way. Another great place to get your seeds is from your own garden. So self-saved seeds. I have a couple things here. Like this right here. It's just in this grocery bag, but this is the head of a sunflower. And I just took it off, and I think it broke in the wind is why it came off the plant. I just let it dry, and I put it in a bag. And so I have a ton of sunflower seeds that I could plant. Some plants will very easily give you the seeds. It's very easy to identify them, and they just kind of come onto the plant and dry on the plant, and you can't really stop it from happening, like the sunflower seeds. Other plants, you have to take some specific steps to get the seeds, and we can talk about that in another video, but self-saving seeds is the best. If you can get your garden to give you seeds back, then you can just keep going without any additional cost as far as seeds are concerned. So, like I said, you can get them at all different stores, and I have a bunch of different brands. So, like, Fairy Morse is a brand. I actually bought a bunch of Fairy Morse online. That's a brand that you'll find, I think mostly at Home Depot and stuff. This is Lake Valley Seeds is a brand. I get these at like farm stores. Like a local farm store to me is called Southern States, so it's where I find those a lot. Baker Creek is a good source for seeds online. I think they have a store, but they have just one, and I think it's in Missouri. So I've never been to their store, so I order online. Let's see. These ones, I don't even know where these came from. I know where this pack came from, but I don't know what store sells these seeds. But these I got from their farmers market. The Master Gardener program has like a seed bucket. These are older, like out-of-date seeds, but they probably will germinate. Just a little lesser rate, but they will probably grow. And they just give them away to anybody who wants them, which is awesome. Let me see. I'm trying to find Burpee, because that's the brand you'll probably see most often, just like in grocery stores and stuff. Burpee is a brand, another brand. Oh, if you go to like a farm store, like I get these at Tractor Supply, a lot of times you can get like seeds in bulk. So things that you need a lot of seeds for, if you're doing a long row, or if it's a seed that you just need like one seed makes one plant and then you eat that plant and it's done. So something like a radish or a beet or something, one seed makes one beet. Whereas if you get a tomato plant, one tomato plant makes a lot of tomatoes. But if you need like a lot of seeds, getting them in bulk from like a farm store might be a good option. And then, but yeah, there's a lot of different brands. Oh, let me show you another one. This one, Livingston Seed Company. I like this brand. Their prices are pretty equivalent. This was $1.19 for a pack of cucumber seeds, and there's a lot more seeds in here. It says clearly more seeds, and you can see them in the little window. They generally have more. So if you're comparing different seed packets, you can't compare different plants because their seeds, of course, will weigh different depending on what you get. Let me just see if I can find two of the same thing here. Okay, so these are both nasturtium seeds, and if you compare the price, these were $1.99, these were $1.89. These were different years, so it might just be, the increase in price. But this is 3 grams for $1.99, and this is 3.5 grams for $1.89. So you want to compare different brands. Like I said, I like all brands the same. I mean, there's not one brand that I like more. Just some brands I just buy because it's what it's available. Sometimes I buy a certain brand because they have the variety that I want. So I'll show you a brand, if I can find it. This brand, Botanical Interest. These are usually sold at nurseries. They sell them at Whole Foods. It's where I see them a lot. And these ones are generally more expensive, but they have a lot of varieties that you can't find elsewhere. So I was having a hard time finding loofah seeds, and that's what I have growing here. Let's see how cute they are. In my opinion, all brands are the same. Just compare the price, compare the price per weight, and decide if you need a lot of seeds. If you just want to grow 1 or 2 tomato plants, you don't need a gigantic bag. So just you got to consider all of those things. When you're shopping for seeds, you want to look on the back. There's a lot of information on the back. If it's something you've never grown before, I would read the entire packet. Make sure that you can support the needs of the plant. It will tell you when to plant it, how long it takes to come to maturity. This one says it needs full sun. It says how far apart to plant them. I ignore that for the most part, but it's helpful if you want to do it the conventional way. And then this one even has a map showing the time frame in which to plant them. And some of them will even tell you if you need to plant them indoors, if they have like a longer growing season. So that's helpful. I do like, let's see, like the Botanical Interests will have like a sketch, oh, there it is, of the seedling. And then these ones, the Lake Valley seeds, they have a little photograph of the seedling. which is helpful. If you've never grown it before and it comes up, you want to make sure it is what you think it is and not a weed, or you don't pull out the wrong thing. So that's helpful if you don't know what it looks like when it comes up. But yeah, any seed that you can find for a good price that's easy for you to get and is in the variety that you want. I wouldn't put too much into one seed over another. If you want to get organic seeds, or you want to get non-GMO seeds, you want to, those are your own criteria, then just make sure that the seeds that you buy fit into your personal criteria. But in my experience, all seeds work fine. And like I said, even the Dollar Tree seeds germinate fine. They grow into perfectly nice plants that will provide food for you. So that's how to get seeds, what to look for in seeds. The next section is starting seeds. I will direct sow whenever possible. The reason why I would not direct sow is if the lifespan of the plant, the days it takes to maturity, which you can find here on the seed packet that says days, it matures in 50 days. Some things like onions and some peppers, let me see if I can find a pepper plant. Yeah, so for these jalapenos it says days to harvest 72 days. So if the period in which it takes to come to maturity is longer than your growing season, or even if it's getting close to the end, you're going to want to start indoors or get transplants. So that would be one reason to start inside. But whenever possible, I start outside in its final location. If you're going to start inside, you can start with lights. You can start with just sunlight. I generally have not had really great luck with just using like a sunny window. I don't have a lot of sunny windows, so maybe that's why. If you're just getting them just to germinate and you're going to immediately transplant them, you might have good luck. But if you need them to actually grow any substantial amount inside, I feel like lights is the best way to do it. I have a big setup with wire shelves and shop lights and a big seed starting tray to start like a lot of things all at once in the springtime. But if you didn't want to do that, you can just get like a grow light bulb and screw it into any regular lamp, or like those task lamps that have like the shield around them that points the light down to like your desk or something like that. Something like that would be helpful, especially if you're just doing like a small amount of seeds. So I do have some things started already just because it's fun. But I have these are the loofah seeds, and I put them in this paper egg carton because it says that they don't transplant well. There's more seeds don't transplant well than are hard to start from seed. So that's a reason why I like to start from seed and direct sow as much as possible. But it did say if you want to start them indoors, to start them in something that the whole thing can be planted out. So these will just decompose and the roots can push right through. And actually, I'll show you, the roots did push through. I didn't even cut holes in these because they're so porous. Any extra water just kind of soaks through. You can see, you see that little root right there? Just poked itself right through. So once this is in the garden, it'll just decompose, the worms will eat it, and I won't actually have to disturb the roots. So that's how I started these. I have a bunch of egg cartons, so I usually take them to this farm that sells eggs, but because I'm not going anywhere, they're like collecting in my house. So I decided to start some like this. You can also get seed starting trays. This is my favorite seed starting tray. I got it from Dollar Tree years ago. Haven't seen them since, but I really like it because it's small. It comes with a clear dome. I think I left it upstairs. But it comes with a clear dome to keep the humidity in. And it only holds 12 seedlings. I also have big ones that hold 72 seedlings. And those are nice if you're doing like a lot of something. But what I found is unless you're doing like 72 of all the same thing, how things germinate and how long it takes for them to germinate and how close they need to be to the lights, every plant is going to be a little different. So even if you put 72 things and have like 10 different kinds of things in there, when you take off the dome, how close you get them to the light, all those things are going to be different. And so I'd rather have a bunch of little ones if I had thought and got a bunch more. This one's all crushed, but I still use it. Once things germinate, you're going to want to take the dome off. Otherwise, this might rot and it might just keel over. But once you take the dome off, then you lose the humidity for germinating the other ones. So I think keeping the seed tray smaller is more helpful for me. But like I said, I use the big 72 cell trays as well. Some tips about starting in seed trays. Like I said, you want to take the dome off as soon as you see anything germinate. You want to keep these moist but not soggy. So a helpful thing to do is to just bottom water. So just fill up. See, these pull out and then it's just kind of a solid tray that they sit in. So just put water in there and let them soak it up on their own. As long as it's just like an inch, it will soak up, but it won't like make the roots too soggy. When you have lights, I use just shop lights, so they're like tube lights. You want to have them as close to the soil, like just above the soil as possible, to keep your seedlings from stretching out. And then what I put in here, I use vermiculite to start seeds. I don't have a ton of vermiculite, so I'm going to have to think of something else for my larger seed starting tray. But if you can get vermiculite, it's really nice. It's like a crushed volcanic rock or something like that. There's no organic matter in it, so there's less of a risk of mold forming on the surface. There's less of a risk of fungus gnats coming and attacking your seedlings or attacking you when you walk past your seedlings. So I do like vermiculite. You can also get seed starting mix. It's usually just sifted potting soil though, and a lot of times it's just really light and fluffy, so the seedlings don't have to fight against anything to get out. You can make your own. Just take potting soil that you may already have and get like a strainer, like one that you use just for the garden, not your kitchen strainer, but the same kind of strainer, and just sift out the larger pieces out of your potting mix. So sometimes there'll be larger pieces of perlite, or there'll be larger pieces of like almost mulch or bark in there. Just sift that out, and the light stuff that goes through like a fine wire mesh sieve is what you can use as your seed starting mix. But yeah, that's how I have my seeds started so far. As far as your lights, I just have mine on a timer. So it plugs into the timer plugs into the wall, they turn on and they turn off. And generally I have them on for like 14 hours. And so having them turn on and off, having them down in the basement where they're not disturbing anybody, is just what I found to be helpful. But if you have any tips or tricks or ideas about seeds, you want to leave comments down below, I would love to hear them. I'm sure everybody who came to this video would also like to hear that information too. Leave comments down below. If you have any questions, anything you want to see in the future, leave those comments down below. Give my video a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!